In this video, I'm going to show you how to install this fog light kit in this Toyota Prius. Let's get into it. In the trunk, pull this out. You may have to release the locks, twist those. This cover pulls out. Grab this tray, just pull it up, and this comes out. There's a cover right here. Just grab the cover, slide it up and out of the way. Disconnect the negative terminal, use a 10mm wrench. Loosen up this nut. Slide that off and out of the way. We're going to take this cover off. You can use a trim tool. Just get underneath here. And get underneath it. Pop it up. And it pops right out. You can see where it's pushed in, a couple push pins on the bottom and on the top. Just take some side cutters and we'll just cut this center piece out right here. Just like that. And we're going to do the same on the other side. Take the light, and you can see where there's two tabs on the top, and then this little adjuster is on the bottom for this side. Get that lined up. I'm just going to push that in, just like that. Line that up, push that in place, and it locks down. Depending on the vehicle, you may have to rotate this bulb. Just take it out, switch it, and put it in this location, just like that. So then you can plug it in afterwards. If it's straight up and down for this vehicle, it's not going to fit exactly as it would if you rotated it down. All right, there we go, it's locked in. We're gonna take these two screws out up front. There should be a screw right there. Just use a 10mm socket. Take these out. There's a push pin right here. We'll take that out as well. Just use a trim tool. Just get underneath the center. And just pop that out. Just grab this panel, pull it down, just so we can access the back side of where the fog light is. Just so you can access the back side of here, and you're going to do the same on the other side. Remove this shield. There's some push pins. In the center there is an area where you can use a Phillips head screwdriver just to raise this up a little. Just using a trim tool. Pop out the push pins. Should be two more there. Oops. grab this panel, slide it up, out of the way. Now we have this harness. I'm taking the side that has the other yellow wire. So it looks like this is a connector and then the yellow wire. We're going to keep the yellow wire out. And there's a ground wire. And there's a connector that's going to go to the fog light. So I want to go down behind the radiator support. And then right where the headlight is, I want to go straight down. So if you can use something to help push it down, like a pick or a pry bar, just want to go down with this. That's going to connect to the fog light. Right there, feed that down. Right about there. Keep this ground out. Take this ground, we're actually going to hook it right here. Use a 10mm socket. Loosen that up. You might need a wire brush. Snug that down. That's good. That's going to keep that wire from getting lost. Keep that wire, yellow wire over in this area. Just go underneath this bracket here. And we can wire tie these out of the way once we're done. Take the other wire. Now we have some relays on this wire. So we're going to have to just remove this bracket. We'll go over it. Just using a 12mm socket. Just pop that up. We can go underneath there. And then this bracket we can go underneath. And put that bracket back. Snug that down. And this connector is going to do the same as the other one. We're going to go underneath the radiator support. Get over to right next to the headlight. And then we want to go straight down right there. You should be able to grab that from underneath and connect it to the bulb. So we'll go down there now and do that before we secure anything else. Now locate the wire with the connector. You want to plug that into the fog light. Line that up with the bulb. Lock it down. I'll plug that in. Lock it down. And you can cover these up. Push these back in place. Put the screws back in. Snug those down. Oops. There we go. And do the same on the other side. and put the push pin in, lock it down. This red wire is going to go under here. And this junction block, this fuse and relay. Slide that under here. We'll connect these first. This wire is going to go right here where there is a positive connection. I'll just use a 10mm socket. Loosen this up. Take that wire, slide that over, and put the nut back on. Snug that down, and then we're gonna just run this wire through the fuse box and down. You might have to just slightly modify the cover so that the wire can come out of the cover when we put that back on. But we're gonna leave this off for now because we will need to hook into it for our switch. We're gonna have to hook into the fuse box. Now we need to take this wiring harness and the switch. This connects to the switch and that's gonna go in the dash. Then this harness needs to go through the firewall. So we need to find an area where we can go through the firewall and get these wires out here. We have to get this wire through the firewall. This is gonna connect to our switch on the dash. So this is gonna go through the firewall. So we're gonna go on the inside with this. But to go through the firewall, you're gonna need a special tool like this. We're gonna have to go through the rubber grommet. That's gonna stab through, and we're gonna feed these wires through here. You can see this ground wire is too big. So to make it easier, we're just gonna cut the end of the ground wire, just using some side cutters, just like that. We can always put that back on if we want to, or you can use a different connector for the end. So something similar to this. Go through there with the wires. So this is going to go through the firewall from the inside. Feed these in. Once those are fed in, we can try to pull this. It's ideal if you can pull them all the way through here, but because of all this insulation, we can actually trim this back a little bit. That'll make it easier. And then once it's through, then we just pull this tool out, pull the wires through. All right, so we stabbed through the rubber grommet. I ended up using a piece of brake tube, and I just sliced the end so it's sharp, but it's acting just like that other tool. So if you don't have one of those tools, use a piece of brake tubing. Right there. Now from the inside, we're going to push these wires in. Just be careful with the end. It is pretty sharp. I just cut back on the insulation, so I had a lot more of the wires to fish through. Just push that in. That's pretty good right there. It should be enough to get us by. Now we can pull the tube out. Nice and slow. And you can see the wires are right here. So now very carefully we can pull the wires out a little bit more. to be able to hook them up where we need to. The black one's going to go to a ground. The yellow one is going to go to the other connector right here. Yellow one's going to go to there, and then the red one is going to go to a switch, to a fuse. Let's pull that out a little more. There's plenty of slack on the wires out here. I pulled it out a little bit more so we can hook this to a ground somewhere and everything else. Before we attach everything under here, we're going to want to put the switch in the correct location. So let's do that next. We want this switch to go in one of these plates right here. You can see the wire. If I pull it around, it reaches to that position. So we might need a little bit more slack. We can pop up this plate just with a pick or a trim tool. Just get underneath it. Pop that off. I'm taking some clear tube. You can use anything if you have a piece of wire, mechanic's wire. I'm going to feed it. We're going to feed it in the hole and try to see if we can see it from underneath. This just makes it a lot quicker, and then you don't have to take any panels off. And I got it underneath. So let's pull that down. All right, so that's right there. Then what you're going to end up doing, you have to run this over the brake assembly first, and then we're going to tape these together, and we can fish this right back up here. Just using masking tape. You can use electrical tape too, if you need to. All right. So I'll just push this through as I pull it. This may take you a couple tries, especially if you get caught on something. There it is. There's the wire. I'll take the tape off. Plug the connector in. It's going to go just like that. Slide in position. Push it down. There you go. There's your button. Then you want to secure all the wiring harness out of the way using some wire ties, and just make sure nothing is near anything moving. Now with the black wire, we're going to have to find a ground. There's many different places where you can put the ground wire. I'm just going to strip this back just with some wire strippers. A little bit more. I'll just crimp it down. Make sure that's tight. And if you wanted to, you could go up here over that stud, or another place where you can see a ground. What we're going to do is on this bracket right here, there's a hole. So we'll just clean this up with a wire brush, put a bolt through that right there. That's good. Let's put a bolt through there from underneath. Just make sure it doesn't squish the other wires. snug that down. Now the yellow wires, connect those together. There's a little bit of this weather packing that you can try to push together. If you're in an area where there's harsh weather conditions, you might want to put some shrink wrap over this. And then tuck this out of the way. The last wire, you want to come down, you go around here. We're going to attach that over here. One of these circuits only comes on when the ignition key is on, so you want to figure out which one that is. And we're going to use one of these piggyback fuse jumpers. Connect that wire to that. Strip the wire back. Oops. Slide that in. I'll twist this a little bit. Slide that in. Crimp it down. Just like that. Give it a wiggle. That's good. I'm going to pop this cover off. Just use a pick. This is the lower one. And take that fuse, that jumper, piggyback jumper, and slide that in position. And we're going to connect the battery. Take the negative terminal, connect that, use your wrench, and tighten this down. Snug that down. You can see with the key out of the ignition that there's no light on the switch. If there was a light on the switch, then you plugged it into the wrong one, and there may be power going to it all the time, which you don't want. You only want power going to that when you have the key on. So now we'll put the key on, put the vehicle in the on position, and you can see it lights up. And if we push it, the fog lights come on. You can see that it's brighter right there. There's a little LED that lets you know that they're on, and it shuts off when they're off. And you can button it up, put the cover right on, close that up. You may have to modify the cover for the wires coming out. Just trim it back a little bit, that's fine. And with all the wires, you want to take some wire ties and just secure them out of the way. Depending on how neat you want it, if you take more time, it's going to look a lot neater. Oops. Just like that. Do that throughout the rest of the vehicle, and then just trim the excess. And put this cover on, line it up. Take the push pins, get those all started, and lock them down. Take this cover, slide it in place. And put this basket in. And this cover is going to go on top. Lock it down.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.